What's up, guys? How is it going? All right. In the ongoing Budget Nin saga, I have yet another game. This time I am up against Nemesis 464, wielding the Mystery Commander. That's interesting. Where are you? There he is. Aha! Zurgo Helmsmasher appears. Red, black, white commander. I've actually seen this guy a fair amount recently. Always kind of threatening, given the fact that it's in decent colors and can really beat the hell out of you if they get a fast draw. If you're not really prepared to deal with it, the amount of damage this thing deals to you quickly really piles up and kills you in just 3 attacks, no matter how much life you have. You notice our life totals have actually gone back to the proper amount. It's now back to 30 again from 40 life before there was that issue with it, which I guess they corrected. And I'm playing Budget Nin, as you know. Haven't really made any adjustments to the deck. It's still been performing extremely well, so I've been very happy with it. And unfortunately, I'm not really happy with this opening hand. Sorry that the UI is covering a little bit of my hand, but you can probably see it pretty well. I wonder if I can expand. Yeah, let's expand the size of this. There we go. That'll make it a lot better. All right, he's going first, and I have a hand that is borderline keepable, given that it's got both Expedition Map and Cold Steel Heart. But unfortunately, it only has 1 land, and it's interesting they changed the frame on Kefnet. It's got that new funky, I don't know, legendary frame. Unfortunately, I can't keep this hand, and got to go to 6. So I'm going to mulligan. And this is certainly an excellent hand for 6-card hand, barring any acceleration. But having both negate and condescend in my opening draw is really handy, as well as having the repulse to deal with his Zurgo and Factor Fiction to deploy in a couple of turns. So I'm definitely going to keep this, and hopefully to get a land with the Scry. Get his chat message out of there. Whir of Invention. That's certainly going to the bottom. No way to cast that for a while. I guess I'm actually going first. Sorry about these messages popping up. He was just chatting to me that he had watched the YouTube channel, which is always fun. All right, let's see what he's up to. Plays a Nomad Outpost. Probably the best land in his deck, or nearly the best. Second only to the Command Tower. Still no land, but at least I have the ability to condescend his turn 2 player and negate it if it's something like a Soul Ring. I'm just really hoping to draw 3rd mana. I'll pretty much condescend anything he plays at this point, as long as it'll actually counter it, because I really need to scry 2 to get to 3 mana. And he just taps 1 mana. And when I said that I would counterspell nearly everything, that does not include Authority of the Councils, which is a card that is all but dead against my Nin deck, and something I can practically ignore. I guess it's kind of cool, I suppose, with his commander, that it makes it a little harder for people to play creatures to block, which I suppose is why he's using it. But I definitely do not care about it. I'm not going to be blocking a Zurgo Helmsmasher very much, I suspect. All right, come on, deck. Signet. All right, well, if I had condescended for 1 there to counterspell the Authority of the Consuls, and unless there was a land, I would have put the land above the Signet, but I probably would have kept the Signet on top. So I figure, even though this is lowering my defenses for a second, he's a long way from his commander, and even though it means I can't condescend or negate, it's probably worth just putting out the Signet to get a little bit more mana into play, because I definitely don't have a long-term game plan that involves sitting on 2 land. Besides, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen from a red, black, white deck? Like Necro, maybe? And he doesn't have two black mana. I guess he could play Phyrexian Arena, which would be bad, but it's not the end of the world. Let's see what he does. He starts to tap mana. And he plays Price of Glory. Well, file this under the category of worst case scenarios when you tap out with your practically mono blue Nin deck to cast something. Your opponent plays a card that basically says, if I counterspell anything on his turn, it destroys my land. That is catastrophic. An absolutely insane silver bullet against my deck that is going to make this game really tough. I don't know why he's playing with this card, actually. I guess his ideas is that it makes it harder for his opponents to interact with his Zurgo, but Zurgo's indestructible on your turn anyway. I'm not really sure why he would play it, other than maybe just to make blue miserable. And he's certainly accomplished that. I am now feeling very miserable and very foolish for tapping out, because I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. But then my deck at least delivers Trinket Mage, so that's something to do right now to go get Soul Ring. Of course, I'm just going to play tapped, and I'm all done. Got to think of a game plan to deal with Price of Glory, given how many of the cards in my deck it just completely kills. At least I've got 2 artifact mana, 3 total, that I can utilize on his turn to run these counters. without having to destroy my land, so at least that's a minor solution. Read the bones. All right, read away. I don't remember if he puts cards in his hand or not, but it doesn't really matter. And that's peculiar. Oh no, I guess he gained a life from something. Yeah, he gained life from Authority of the Councils. Just wondering why he was at 29. Come on, land. All right, Rolling Earthquake. Actually, really good card to get right now, because that's going to give me a solution to Zurgo Helmsmasher if he intends to cast it next turn. And the fact that he scryed last turn means that he's very likely going to be playing his commander next turn. So I'll just prepare myself for that. Play Soul Ring, and I'm going to just cast Main Step Factor Fiction here, because I'm definitely not casting it at the end of his turn. And I guess there'd be something that said I could just leave these two untapped to condescend Zurgo, but I'm not really honestly concerned about Zurgo, given the fact that I have Rolling Earthquake and I'd rather just kill it and make it cost 7 mana, and I really just need to get more mana into play to turn this Tezzeret on and make it good. And sure enough, I got 3 land, Palladium Mirror, and Muddle the Mixture. So he fools around with my cards. When he does this split, I'm like, oh yeah, please let me have the 3 there. I have no use for Palladium Mirror, and 2 lands, and the best card is by far the better pile. And then he thinks better of it, and he thinks better of it again, thinks better of it again, and ultimately he locks in these 2. And I think this is an excellent split, actually. Anytime you can get your opponent to choose a 2-card pile with Fact Fiction, you've probably done something right. And I, of course, take Muddle the Mixture because it transmutes into 2 of my blue bounce spells, which will allow me to deal with Price of Glory eventually. Play an island and be done. Alright, he's got 5 minutes. I'm sorry if the clicking of the mouse is really loud. I'm actually on my laptop right now, because that's where I happened to play this game earlier today, and it is clicktastic, so I apologize for the annoying sound. I'm sure the speaker is picking that up really loud. I'm going to move the mouse away a little bit. Hopefully that makes it better. All right, there's Zurgo. Zurgo's charging in. I read the card. I remembered it had a secondary ability, and it's got the Sengir Vampire ability attached to it, so it's indestructible. And I actually am guilty of doing some poor math here. I should have absolutely chump blocked with the Trinket Mage here. It does make Zurgo an 8/3, but because I intend to play Tezzeret the Seeker next turn and untap the Soul Ring and my Izzet Signet, I already have enough mana to Rolling Earthquake for 3, which will kill it off, even if it does get an extra counter on it. And so I needlessly, and of course the Rolling Earthquake is going to kill my Trinket Mage, so there's no reason to keep it around. So I just needlessly take 7 here, which is just a dumb mistake. The reason why is that I miscounted and I felt that I only had the ability to Rolling Earthquake for 2 after I cast Tezzeret. And as you will see, on the next turn that is not the case. And then my deck rewards me for my stupidity by giving me another excellent counter to Zurgo Helmsmasher. Why can I not draw both Earthquake and Rolling Earthquake every time I play against this stupid Narset? Alright. So I tap 5 or 6 and I go, oh wait a minute, duh. I can untap these 2, and of course you can see that this is enough mana to quake for 3. I just really need to bluff with the Shivan Reef, I guess, against an opponent who will not respect it. And now I sheepishly attack with this dumb Trinket Mage that should have died, so I really got to get in for 2. I can just Rolling Earthquake. I can Earthquake for 2. And save myself a point of damage. No biggie. Alright, so at least that dealt with the Zurgo for a little while. I gotta hope he's got nothing else. He's got Sunhome, Fortress of Legion. Could be problematic later on. And then he casts something that I don't think I've ever played against before. Rite of the Raging Storm. Creatures named Lightning Ranger can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player creates a 5/1 red elemental token. This is a very interesting card in multiplayer because you give your opponents 5/1s with haste that they can send at each other but not at you. It's clearly intended for multiplayer and is very powerful in 1v1, given the fact that I can't actually attack him with these 5/1s that I get. So unless I have some useful way to utilize the 5/1s in another fashion, like a Skull Clamp or something, they are of no benefit to me. And besides, they die at the end of the turn and they come into play tapped, and he gains a life off that. So very powerful card for him, very bad card for me to deal with, because 5/1s constantly in a mono blue deck is a big problem, and that threatens Tezzeret as well. I'm going to have to find a solution to that too now. There are now 2 very problematic enchantments in play. Alright, so during upkeep I get a useless 5/1 that gains him life, and I draw Izzet Charm. Not too great here, but at least it gives me a way to instantly kill an attacking 5/1 to protect Tezzeret. So with that in mind, it's time to transmute this Muddle the Mixture and set up a Cyclonic Rift play, which is going to happen in a couple of turns, as that's my only way to get both of these things off the board. I mean, the highest priority by far is Price of Glory. My deck just can't function with that card in play. I'm not going to be drawing cards and tapping out with Nin on my turn, and I'm certainly not going to be countering much if I can't tap mana on, or at least can't tap lands on his turn, unless, especially if he's able to deal with any of my artifacts and move that out of the way. So of course I'm going to search and get the Cyclonic Rift. I've got an extra mana here. I'm going to untap 2 land and just play my Nin Pain Artist, since there's little else to do. I do have the ability at least to repulse without having to destroy any lands, provided that he replays his Zurgo, which is likely coming right now. And Tezzeret's at 6 counter, so it at least can survive 1 hit from a Lightning Rager. And then from that point on, provided he doesn't play anything else, I can actually use Nin to shoot Lightning Ragers repeatedly while I'm utilizing Tezzeret for other reasons, and I'd be happy to do that, actually. Even though it means he gets to draw an extra card every turn. Alright, down comes Zurgo. And I suppose I could have condescended it, but I ultimately decided that I wanted to just repulse and draw a card. I'm going to save I need the condescend because I need to deal with these permanents later on when I ultimately rift him, and I need more counter magic to make that happen. So I'm just going to repulse, even though that means Tezzeret gets knocked down a peg. It's gone. Stoic Rebuttal. All right, that's excellent. That was a very, very timely card to draw. I get to tap 2 mana here, and it's time to actually rift right now since this just makes 6. So I'm tapping all that mana, throwing a rift at his face. Okay, so this is not bad. I've got, if he elects to replay Zurgo, I've got a Stoic Rebuttal for that. If he plays his big 5 mana enchantment and he doesn't have any additional lands, I have the ability to counterspell it with negate. If he tries to play both in a turn, well, I suspect he'll play a land before he does anything, and that'll mean that he can cast both, and that means that I just let the 5 mana enchantment resolve, as strong as it is, and I make sure that I stop the Price of Glory afterward. If he plays Price of Glory first, of course, I'm just going to negate it and deal with whatever else he plays. I kind of suspect at this point I'm not going to be able to keep Tezzeret around much longer anyway, so I'm not going to invest a lot in trying to keep it alive. There's just too many different things that interfere with it. So he does draw land and plays it as I suspected. Down comes Red of the Raging Storm, and because he's got red mana available and Price of Glory is still waiting in the wings, I just have to let that resolve. Sure enough, he goes for Price, and I'm ready with the Condescend. I'm doing this just to scry. I could negate it, but I feel that the negate is more compact and reliable, and I really need to get more lands. So you see me just Condescending for 1. Sure enough, there's a land on top and a Star Compass, which I don't want because it's slow as hell. Oops. Sorry about the resizing there. Hopefully we didn't get too far ahead. God, this thing's so frustrating. I don't know why it resized right there. Okay, well, so I don't have to record this entire thing. I'll just go over the sequence of events right there. I'm sorry that I guess you can step through that in slow-mo on YouTube if you want to. But what happened is I drew Memory Lapse on the next turn, and when he went to go and play his Zurgo again, I actually thought that I had enough mana to Stoic Rebuttal it. I tapped 2 land and then realized, oh man, I somehow don't have Metalcraft yet, so I actually have to pay full price for the Stoic Rebuttal, and that's not going to work because I need to also potentially play other spells. Like I need to play the Izzet Charm to kill this creature to protect Tezzeret for a little longer. And so I Memory Lapsed the Zurgo, but because of the interface, he just put Zurgo back into the command zone instead of putting it on top of his deck, which is a common issue. And of course, if we were playing regularly, he would have just thrown Zurgo back on top of his deck and been able to replay it for 5 instead of 9 or whatever. And then on my next turn, I drew, and then he attacked with the Lightning Ranger. I attempted to Izzet Charm, and the Rager was headed at Tezzeret. So I charmed it. He cast this card, Rebuff the Wicked, to make it to counterspell. It's basically just avoid fate for in white. And I cast Izzet Charm, I cast Negate to counter that. And so that stopped, at least killed the Lightning Rager that was attacking. Kept Tezzeret around for 1 more turn, and on that turn I drew Frost Titan. So playing Frost Titan allowed me to lock down his land and give me something of a countermeasure to deal with the elementals, as well as keep Tezzeret around. But I think that Tezzeret's time has come. It's going to just be too hard to keep it alive any longer against the onslaught of the elementals. He's tapping a bunch of mana. And then he casts this card. I don't think I've ever had this played against me. Tragic Arrogance. For each player you choose among that player So you basically just effectively destroy all of your opponent's permanents of particular types except for one artifact, one creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker that they control. And I actually gave quite a bit of thought to letting this card resolve, because at the end of the day, it's going to cost me the Soul Ring, it's going to cost me Tezzeret, who's going to die anyway here, and it's going to cost me Frost Titan, but it does leave Stoic Rebuttal in my hand, and his mana is still a little bit scary, but I kind of figure that if I can't protect Tezzeret anyway if I'm counterspelling, so Tezzeret's going to die, and that just makes a difference of losing the Soul Ring, trading the Soul Ring and a Frost Titan for this Stoic Rebuttal in hand, and I kind of feel at the end of the day that the 6/6 creature, as well as, because it's a conduit for shooting it with Nin, as well as the Soul Ring, are too important. So regretfully, I have to Stoic Rebuttal. I'm going to Impulse first, though, just to see if there's a better counter to use. This is a very interesting 4. There's an island, a Fabricate, which can get me to Veldican Shackles, which doesn't really solve any of these problems because I don't have very many islands yet. An Electrolyze, which is really handy because it's going to give me the ability to potentially protect Tezzeret for another turn. Although I guess it's dying this turn since I'm going to be Stoic Rebuttaling. And then there's a Dak Faden. It doesn't have any artifacts in play yet, but this is insurance against future artifacts. And despite the fact that Dak Faden is super powerful, I don't really think that any artifacts are going to affect the game particularly, unless he, I don't know, plays a Thran Dynamo or Gilded Lotus or something to steal. I think that the Electrolyze is quite handy because I do have some more ways to kill Zurgo, but I may run out of them after a little while. And the Electrolyze, at least, is always going to cycle for another card. So I eventually decide to take that. And now I'm going to counterspell the Tragic Arrogance. He's got some more mana, and he's got Mortify to kill Nin, because he doesn't have enough mana to kill Frost Titan because of its self-protecting ability, which is very handy. And losing Nin here sucks, but not the end of the world. She just costs 6 to replay. And Tezzeret finally dies. Really not feeling particularly good about this game right now. Just don't have anything going on. I do have the 6/6, but it's not really able to do anything, and I do actually have to tap down Sunhome, Fortress of Legion, because I can't stop the 5/1s due to it, because he can just give him Double Strike and Trample over. Although I guess I do have Electrolyze this turn. I draw Prismatic Lens, which is pretty nice because I just need more mana. And then it's still pretty cheap at 4, and playing the Lens allows me to still use the Electrolyze. I'm going to attack here since I just intend to Electrolyze an elemental when he attacks with it, and I can't stop Zurgo anyway, and that shuts down at least the Double Strike. And smash for 7, I get these useless 5/1s. For now, at least. Alright, back first turn. This is definitely an interesting game in the sense that I'm playing budget, obviously, but it's a kind of neat example of the fact that even though your opponent's card quality isn't particularly high and he's using some odd cards, if your opponent gets stuff in the right order, in the right mixture of stuff, it can actually prove to be really threatening and very frustrating. Now he plays a real card, Elspeth Sun's Champion, and I am so glad that I have Rolling Earthquake in my hand. And when he plays this, I'm thinking, oh my god, please don't do the ultimate, or not the ultimate, but the middle ability. Please don't minus it, because I really, really want this Frost Titan to survive. And when he goes and makes 3/1/1 soldiers, I'm super relieved. It would have been funny if he used the ultimate or the -3 before he attacked and he killed his own creature. But I'm going to Electrolyze. And actually, I guess I decided not to Electrolyze. I'm still going to use it for a more important time because I may need to protect a Planeswalker or something. 5/1. Play an island. Alright, since Nin's going to die to the Rolling Earthquake here, and I'm definitely going to have to just quake away these 3 soldiers, I'm going to use Nin to shoot down the elemental before I do anything. Just figuring out how much mana to do for that. I ultimately decide that this is probably the right amount. I want to leave 5 mana untapped. Reason being that I'm going to draw 3 off the elemental, as well as a card down the road off Electrolyze, and that gives me an opportunity to cast a 3-mana counterspell. You see me tapping and untapping mana here. Finally decide that 5 is the right number to shoot, which draws me 3. That is, I guess, a pretty nice use for this Rite of the Raging Storm. I just get these things to shoot. Come on, deck. Deliver! Island, Thran Dynamo. Not what I want to see. Not at all. But at least I have the ability to clear out the soldiers and smash down Elspeth. Elspeth is such a nightmare to deal with. Oh my god. So nightmarish to deal with. If it starts to get out of control, you just lose to it. Really, really not too much you can do. Alright. Elemental. And I kind of mistapped my mana. I probably should have say, I don't know, left command tower untapped over Shonen Reef. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. So he plays Soul Ring, certainly what he drew that turn. That's going to make Zurgo more castable. Along those lines, down comes the Zurgo again, and he's got enough mana that if I kill it again, he can play it another time with just one more land. Very problematic. I can't kill it with the Electrolyze, so it's going to take another big bite out of my life total. I take 8 total here. But I draw Disciple of the Ring. Man, have I ever been more happy to see that guy. That is so timely. It's just incredible. And my graveyard is completely stacked. So wonderful. So I was just thinking, like, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to Flame Tongue Cobbler this thing next turn, attack with Frost Titan and lock down his Soul Ring to at least prevent him from recasting Zurgo, but I have no answer to the stupid 5/1s. And he may even have the ability to double strike and kill me in a second here. Actually, I'm not going to be able to tap the Soul Ring. I'm going to have to tap this thing so he can't double strike. Like, this is just Nightmareville, but I draw Disciple. Yeah, I'd almost given up the game at this point, actually. I wasn't really sure how I was going to circumvent this enchantment. But Disciple is often an answer to many, many, many cards, both in play and in your opponent's deck, and this is one of those situations. So I'm going to slam the Disciple of the Ring after playing Thran Dynamo, of course, first. It does tap me down to just 5, but I feel that this is enough defense that I'm probably not going to die. Smash. Lock down his land since Disciple can just tap the Zurgo anyway. Alright, what's he going to do? Fated Return. Huh. This is a weird card. I mean, I guess the idea is you get to scry 2 and reanimate something, but damn, that is a big price to pay for that effect. That's such a, I don't know, kind of a mediocre effect, I think, for 7 mana, even at instant speed. So he goes after my Trinket Mage as he's got nothing creature-wise in his graveyard. I really don't know why he's using this card. And Trinket Mage is pretty innocuous, but at the same time, it's another creature I'm going to have to deal with tapping, and my life total is really, really low. And I don't know what artifacts he'd get from it. Very likely something like Skull Clamp, which you could use to clamp the Lightning Rangers and start drawing tons of extra cards. So with that in mind, I have to counterspell this with my guy. Pays 2 once. I have to do it again. Pays 2 again. I have to do it a third time. It's pretty good to pay 3 free mana to counterspell a 7 mana spell. And I've got 2 left to tap both of his creatures. Absolutely no reason to take any damage here. Disciple keeps me alive at 7. Alright. Still very precarious. The creature dies. At least I'm able to hit back for quite a bit of damage now. Alright, so I'm just going to redeploy Nin. Smashing him for 9. Locking down the Soul Ring now, since I'm not worried about double strike, since he can't likely attack me with anything anyway for a while. I'm going to axe down the Zurgo. This is not just to make it prohibitively expensive now that Soul Ring is tapped, but also to get another high-power creature into play, and to threaten lethal next turn. And I'm also going to play Nin the Pain Artist again. Feeds him some life, but what can you do? Back to his turn. Nemesis running out of time. And I love having these 5 lands untapped to protect against big sorceries like a sweeper. I don't know, like Blasphemous Act or something. And he thinks for a little while, realizes he can't cast the Zurgo Helmsmasher. He knows that I'm just going to tap his guy and I'm threatening lethal. And with that, he congratulates me on the game and packs it in. Wow, this was such an intense game. You know, obviously his deck is very budget too. I didn't really see anything that was particularly expensive outside of Elspeth. But like I said earlier, just because your opponent's deck is budget doesn't mean that it can't give you a hell of a game. And this game was super close and was really pretty much lost until the miraculous arrival of Disciple of the Ring. And this thing just wins so many games, it's crazy. I don't know why you don't see it in more decks. It is such a powerhouse, and especially in the budget format, and really, really shines in the Nin deck where all of its abilities are at their best. Hope you guys enjoy that game. I will be playing more in the future, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get my other replays recovered, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean I can't play more games. If you have a particular deck that you want me to use, feel free to leave some comments about that, and I will be happy to accommodate. More games to come soon. See you guys later.